Alrighty, guys, welcome back. So this is the next part after learning kind of the GitHub workflow, and I would highly recommend running through that a few times. Just writing a bit of code, adding it to your staging area, committing it, and then pushing it, just to really get in a flow of committing. And there's kind of a phrase in the software community, especially with version controls, is commit early and commit often. So the reason why you want to commit early and commit often is because you have so many changes you can track. You can be much more precise if you need to go back to a different version of your code for any reason. You have each step documented. But if you write a ton of code and then commit it, let's say you just wanted to see the changes of one bit of code, you are going to have a hard time doing that if you don't commit often and early. So get in a habit of committing very often and very early. But anyway, let's talk about branching now. I think that's a very important version or very important segment to this whole ecosystem is branching. So what branching is, early on we had multiple different versions of the same code, or we talked about it kind of in part one of what branching kind of is and how it works. But let's get a little more granular with it. So let's say this is a new branch, or better yet, let's say this is our main branch right here. So this is production, right? This is the production branch that we want to not really make code on. The reason why we don't want to make code on the production branch is because typically how it works is we're going to deploy. Where's an arrow? Where is an arrow that I'm looking for? That's fine. I'll color this gold. So typically we're going to deploy this version of the code, the main repository, which is going to be on GitHub. So what we want to do if we want to add any sort of code, or if there's a bug even, or if there's anything like that, what we want to do is build a branch. And a branch it's still going to exist on GitHub, but it'll be your branch repo. So we're still going to do the same process, and this is all going to, this isn't going to be your branch repository. It's just going to be your branch. All of this will exist in the same repo. So it's going to be main branch here, not main branch repo. And we can hook up let me unhook this arrow real quick. But we can hook up why is this arrow being a pain in the butt real quick? Sorry, guys. Boom. So we can hook up our laptop to whichever branch we need to work on, or we can actually build this branch first and then hook our laptop up to it. And let's say we're building this branch of code, and this will make sense in a moment, but we're building this branch because we need to fix a bug or add a feature, right? So whatever that might be, whether we're improving the project, building onto it, now our project says hello world, and we also wanted to add a little feature that just let everyone know who wrote this. Whatever the feature might be. We don't want to do this on our main branch. So if you see in the bottom left corner here in our VS Code, it should say main. If it doesn't, it might be because your VS Code is really zoomed in. I think there's only so much space on the bottom line, so it may not say it. But any code changes we do, we first want to build a branch and then connect our laptop to it. Sorry, guys, I don't want these arrows to always be connected here. But we want to connect our laptop to this and then go through this process of adding, committing, and then pushing to the branch. And then after we make all of our changes, so after we're done fixing the bug, after we're done adding a feature, we either want to test it, whether you write tests, or you want to test it manually. And then after doing that, then and only then you actually want to do what we call a merge. This will be merge into main. And the reason is because if you're going to break stuff, if you're going to work on stuff, which more than likely while you're doing this process of writing code, everyone knows, right? You're going to be breaking stuff. You're going to be messing with stuff, changing how stuff works, and you don't want all that to be reflected on the deployed version of your application. You want all that to be reflected on a private version of your application, similar to kind of how I showed you guys with the Team Seeker bit a couple episodes ago. I'm clearly working on a few features, but I want to break stuff and write code on a private version of the application, and then after you kind of fix the bugs or build the features, then you take all this code from your branch and merge it to the main branch. So that way you still have a running, and then after you can delete your branch and then just plug your laptop back up to main branch. That way you can constantly work and improve your application without having to break things. So let's try to show you guys, let's try to walk through the process of how that might work. Again, I know it seems kind of heavy on the concept right now, but I promise it's not too bad. So let's go ahead and try to do that. So first thing, right, if I'm in the main branch, you can see I have changes on the main branch. It's indicated by this little asterisk. You really don't want to do that. So I'll show you a trick in the next part, but we won't do it quite yet. Let's just kind of get this concept down of how to kind of handle changes in the main branch. But let's do git checkout -f, and this will destroy and remove any changes that we've done in the main branch. So you can see that code got deleted here, and that's kind of good. We don't really want to affect the main branch at all. So we don't ever want to write code on main. Is typically a good workflow. It's a good practice. So let's do git checkout, and we could say -b for branch. And then we can name this branch whatever we want. So I could say new feature or bug fix or whatever it might be. You could see my IntelliSense says Ryan branch because Chester and I quite literally have many projects where we have Chester branch and then Ryan branch and then also the main branch. But let's go ahead and say git checkout -b. And let's say this is a new feature. So we've now built a branch, and we can check this out by saying git branch. I believe it'll show us all the branches that exist. We have main, and then you can see there's an asterisk and it's highlighted green to let us know that we're on the new feature branch. As well, you can see in the bottom left corner, it's now changed from main to new feature. And all we've done so far, let me delete all this real quick. All we've done is just take this exact copy of the main code, and we've just duplicated it. And we simply are just plugging our laptop up to it, and we've renamed it to new branch. So that's all we've done so far. And now if we make changes, right? So now if we write code, which is what we're going to do, we're going to be pushing it to this branch's staging area, this branch altogether. And pushing it to this branch altogether, which will not affect the code over here. So again, there's code that already exists over here, whatever code that might be. So your .html files, your Python projects, right? Your TypeScript projects, your React, whatever the code is, it exists on main branch, and we're going to write code over here, and it won't affect anything on main. So that's exactly what we want to do. So let's try this out. We'll say div. This will be new branch features, right? Whatever it might be. And let's go ahead. You can see our changes are being documented. Say git add dot to add those changes. And let's make a commit message. So I'll say git commit -m, and I'll say new branch feature. Let's say I'm done with it. And what we've done now is we've gone to this, we've added it to the staging area, this new branch feature. We wrote the code first, then we added it to the staging area, then we committed it, and then now I'm going to push it. So let's go ahead and do that. Git push. I'll ask for, and we need to set this upstream. Every time you make a new branch, you'll need to do this. But GitHub will remind you, so don't worry about it. It'll always show you this. Just get in the habit of those three things: git add, git commit, git push. And if there's any problems, GitHub will typically show you the path on how to fix it. Or there's, of course, ChatGPT and Stack Overflow. So we're setting it upstream. I'm adding my passcode, and boom, and it pushed us upstream. And if we go back to our repository now on GitHub, if we click on our first project, we will actually be able to see that there's a new feature branch that had recent pushes. And if we click right here, we can see that there's other branch changes. So that we have our main branch, and then we also have our feature branch. And you can see in our feature branch, we have a slightly different variation of code, right, with new branched features. Then if we go to our main branch, we'll see that this code doesn't exist. So let's go over merging in the next part. But again, let's just cover what we did. All we did was just copy over. The reason is because this is the published version, or excuse me, this one's the published version. So we just built a copy of main, and we said, okay, here we go. And then we said, well, let's work on the copy. Let's not actually work on the published version. Let's work on the copy of all the code. And then we just went through the same process that we knew from the previous parts of writing code. It's still the same exact process: adding the code to the staging area, committing the code, and then pushing it. And now in the next episode, let's go over merging from new branch to the main branch. So after we've tested everything, made sure everything's good, we're going to then merge it all over to the main branch. I will see you on the next part.